Hello and welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton. Today we are doing a little bit of a different thing. We're doing a little live stream here on StreamYard. We're having a conversation with at Brian, the mortgage guy, and Oda Toby. Toby's not been on in a hot minute. So, Toby, welcome back. Brian, how we doing?
Outstanding. I'm happy to be here,
Wonderful.
dude. I was excited when I saw the StreamYard link come over.
Sometimes it's easy to get you excited.
Yeah, I mean, I had to pay to get back on this, but I'm glad you accepted my payment.
Hey, listen, every time I get a buck is a buck, man. $5 is $5.
I concur.
You know,
This is fun. You can hear
it
all the
is.
creaks and all the cracks of my chair,
I
of my
know.
microphone.
It's all
There we
good, all
go.
good. So, hey,
Hey,
gentlemen, the reason I wanted to do this is because with the latest news with kind of distilleries shutting down, things to that nature, I wanted to kind of get some perspective from other people that are in the industry or kind of know the industry or that have been following some things, and you know, I guess with Beam, owned by Suntory and all that. What they do? They did a shutdown maybe what a month and a half ago, Brian. Has it been that long or longer?
dude, it's almost been 3 months already.
Has it been
Like,
three
and
months already?
yep, yeah, it was an announcement, and it happened immediately. Like there was no downtime. And what's been insane? All right, so yes, people have been affected by it, but I've been surprised at how few, or at how many people less that are affected than what you would think that would be that are needed to run a distillery.
Right. Yeah.
Just like the numbers for what you're about to say, it's a lot fewer people than what I thought it was going to be.
Well, I haven't looked at the people impact as much as I've looked at like what does the impact mean for the market, right? MGP just announced that they're going to shut down Luxco for the next 12 months, basically, along with Limestone Branch, if what I read was correct, right? Or if I read it correctly. So obviously, MGP, in my humble opinion, I don't think that they necessarily bought that. Um, for the reasons that most people think they bought Luxco. I think it was more of a distribution play and getting more Kentucky bourbon back in their portfolio for source distillate. But when you add in that Green River's shut down, they don't have a master distiller. Like there's so much things that are going on in the market. What do you think the ultimate like play is going to be over the next few months? And then what does that do? What does it do to the inventory? Is this a force play for these contract distillers to be able to sell more juice, get things more rolling? Like, what's your thoughts?
So if you look back, gosh, how many years ago?
And you
If
can
you
turn
look
up your mic
back,
a little bit, Brian. Sorry.
all right, let me do that. I'm gonna say if you look back to the, gonna pause this out here. All right, I'm back.
There you go. That's perfect.
All right, Descoot. Yeah, if you look back to the 70s and 80s and crap 90s, they were all right. So Wild Turkey in the 90s was releasing whiskey. So 94 is the last time that they had their 8-year-old brand. At that
Really?
time, there was whiskey that was 10, 11, and 12 years old that was being
Right.
dumped into that 8-year brand. So like I hope that we start seeing that same thing where when we see the small batch age stated whiskeys, that there's some older whiskey in there. Example,
Right.
when Wild Turkey had their 10-year, like their 10-year small batch, they had
Right.
some 13-year-old whiskey that was in there.
Yeah.
And if I recall, it was the letters that were EE or no LL. And it was Bruce himself. It said that, yeah, we had some 13-year-old whiskey that was dumped into there. So all of a sudden, people were chasing that, me included. I was walking into all the local stores and going through bottles and flipping them around, looking for the age date, hoping that I was going to
Right.
find an LL, and I did not.
Right.
Yeah,
Hmm.
interesting times for sure.
Well, when I sit back and think about it, the boom started what, maybe 2012, I guess I would say, when kind of bourbon kind of became less of a European, or maybe that's when really the European and the Japanese market really dove in on bourbon and started driving prices and started driving inventory in the United States. Um, but premium brands really didn't start popping until what, like 2015, 2016? Does that sound about right?
Sorry, I had to grab an older bottle of Eagle Rare 10-year. This was a 12 and a half year release.
There you
Picked it up
go.
for $40 back in 2016.
40 bucks.
Yep. And so I think that Willett is the one that kind of played. So for years, all through 2016 and 17, when you went to the distillery, you can pick up bottles it was basically $10 a year. If I recall, 2018 is when it hit, when all of a sudden their 10-year, this is still when it was sourced whiskey, their 10-year went up to $140. People
Right.
freaked out. They
Yep.
freaked. And now if you look at how much you're paying per year, because the brand new, they've also expanded a numerous amount of times.
Right.
Like you go to Willett and it's an event. They did not hold back when it came to invest the money into it.
Right.
So I know it's an MGP as large as they are. And I wish Ian would have let us know like how many proof gallons or how many barrels of bourbon or rye that they're filling per year. That'd be a pretty interesting thing to hear from on their part.
Right. And I think the big thing is like as you start to look at these brands, right? Like the sheer amount that these contract distillers were laying down were to meet the demands of the market for craft distillers. So is that who's going to fill the pinch in this whole thing? Is it going to be craft distillers? Like, is this going to inflate prices back to before the bubble started kind of hitting on barrel cost? Like, I mean, I think that's a big question to ask.
So what I love about that is I think the NDPs, the non-distilling producers that have been buying bottles or barrels for 6 or 7 years, they're the ones that were paying a premium for the barrels. Now they can get that same barrel for a third of the price. Like we've got a mutual friend that is he's in a secondary market for barrels. And like you've gotten some crazy calls for some 8-year-old Kentucky whiskey for a quarter of what it was, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, like I think that there is very much an opportunity for these NDPs to come in and buy some aged whiskey.
Yeah.
On the cheap. Is it as cheap as what these distilleries could release it on their own? No. But it's still, a quarter of the price of what it was 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So I think that there's opportunity with that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a really, really weird play when you sit back and look at it. Well, look at you. You're fucking flexing over there. Got the old Weller barrel pick, old school.
I am. Yeah, plastic cap from this is from Last World.
Yeah.
Last World and Tippin out of near Detroit, Michigan, Ann Arbor. It was referred to as, and I wish that we had pictures. This was referred to as the Golden Boy. So my boy Dom, he hooked me up with this.
I just love those old squat bottles.
Yep. Oh, so to me, technically the squat bottle was the release before this. Like when
okay, I know what you're talking. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, these are kind of like I call them the squatty potties or the plastic caps.
Yeah,
as some people say, but they went so far as to actually wax these bad boys with gold. This was almost 8 years old, so this is back in the heyday when you can get Weller product. I think they picked that in 2017. It was just about 8, or is it 16? I can't see. I think it's 16. So happy surprise for my part. And imagine that I just thumped something on the table, even though the mic isn't on the table.
Right. So, what about the tariffs? Like now with the tariffs, like we're seeing a decrease also in what's being consumed from outside the United States. Do you think what's that going to do with pricing here? Is that going to slow down brands from like let's just pick on Old Forester for a second, right? I love Old Forester, so people knows that I'm not doing this intentionally. Is this going to make them slow down on the 117s? Is this going to make them slow down on other things that they're going to come out with, or is this going to increase it because there's less demand on the other side of the river because tariffs, or on the other side of the ocean because tariffs?
Yep. So my gut says that we're going to see like a small increase. So they can do a small increase in prices because bourbonism and the amount of people that want these bottles. Plus, they do phenomenal marketing with the 117 series. It is a whole creature in itself. Like to me, aside from what is the Old Forester 95 proof? It was released after the movie or as a part of the movie.
Oh, Statesman.
Dude. Like, and that's an anomaly. That was one of their, aside from the from their 100 proof rye whiskey. That's, to me, it's one of the best bangs for the buck for $22 and under, 4 to 5 year.
Is the
And I
dates
think
been
that they
that
do.
cheap? It's been so long
It,
since I bought one. It doesn't seem like they're that cheap, but
well, Costco, like the wholesale places, it's dirt cheap.
right.
Still, it's a great whiskey. To me, it's still a bourbon drinker's whiskey. It's
That's fair.
affordable. People use
Yeah.
it as a mixer, like
Yep.
like Barb Babs. She'd have some fun with that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that do use it, so it's definitely a bottle that is being purchased quite a bit, and for
yep.
the reasons that you said, but also for the reasons that, it's in between that 90 proof and that 100 proof, and that's kind of a sweet spot for some people. Some people, I don't know, I don't understand it, but some people think 100 proof's too hot, right? So that 95 proof gives people a sweet spot, like between that 90 and 100.
And also, what I wonder is what 100 proof whiskeys they've had, because we have each had a 100 proof whiskey that drinks a lot hotter than a whiskey that's 130 proof.
Oh, 100%. But that's, that's another story. So,
Yep. So to circle back to the 117 series, I think they have created such a FOMO on that as soon as they hit, they're gone. And
right.
I appreciate that. Now when they put them out there, they're actually hitting retail. If I
Yeah.
recall, the first couple releases, it was distillery only,
Correct.
which being in Louisville, I was stoked.
Yeah.
However, they capped me at 2 per 30 days.
Yeah.
But I could have a wife, a friend, and stuff go down there. In retail price in those, I think that they were originally $55. Similar to what Woodford did with their 375 series. They did the same thing. And I'll tell you, to me, like their 117 bottled and bond rye, that's a banger. According to what you read, it's almost 10 years old. If you figure a 750 is going to cost you 120, $130, that is a banger of a bottle for what it is. It is.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Plus,
I'm really surprised that the 117 series has become more available. I was at Kroger in Louisville just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they were on the shelves for $45. And it was surprising to me.
At $45, that's crazy cheap. I wonder if it was one of the older batches that hadn't been selling well.
Yeah, and to add that Kroger, like their pricing strategy is interesting. I've seen the same whiskey at 4 different prices at 4 different stores.
Right.
They're also big on closeouts. Not like our
Gotcha.
friend Robert does for closeouts,
Right. Yeah.
but things that they have a plethora from. Where I've seen bottles that are retail at $70 marked down to $40.
Right.
So
let's talk about the difference between is this a bust or is this a healthy correction for the market?
All right. So I think it's a much past due correction for the market. Leading into COVID, the amount of disposable money that was being deposited into individuals' accounts was something next level. Plus, what happened to the secondary market? I mean, it was an income stream for a number of people. They weren't at work; they were being paid to stay at home. Liquor stores, well, we are in Kentucky. They were essential, where they were open, which is something interesting or something. Well, for Kentucky, it's not. But I think that between COVID or COVID-19, the pandemic, whatever we want to call it, that really kind of fueled the secondary industry, where individuals were going out, because they had all day. They were visiting 15 stores a day. They'd find a couple hard to find bottles. They pay a little more than what retail was. They can turn around and sell it for 30, 40% more.
Right.
Plus those liquor stores, they weren't selling their waters, their energy drinks, their this or their that. So they were probably hurting some. So they were letting people buy things in bulk. If you're going to make $30 a bottle and you've got 30 of those, it's an easy $900 payday for not doing a whole lot of work.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's probably a combination, right? I think it's a healthy correction, but I also think that the bubble is starting to burst. Like Toby, and I, we have conversations during lunch quite frequently when we're talking about whiskey, and he's been making the argument, and I've kind of been listening to him a little bit, and then you're starting to see it a little bit, but not quite as much for your premium brands or your bottles that people are chasing, especially if it's a Buffalo Trace product. Is you're starting to see more of it, right? Like if we all know now, Sazerac's pretty much on the shelf everywhere, right? Buffalo Trace now you can pretty much find it anywhere. The question is this healthy correction going to be where now we're going to find Weller Green Label or Weller Red Label, OWA, or are we going to start seeing Eagle Rare on the shelves like regularly with this happening, or is it still going to be as soon as they hit the shelves they're going to start leaving again?
Well, you see videos of people go out that do bourbon hunting and things like that, and it depends on what state you're in. You go to Texas, and E.H. Taylor, Weller Green Label, Blanton's, all that stuff's on the shelf regularly now. It's starting to become more and more available in different states, Ohio and things like that. But it goes back to the question of, is there too much inventory? And you go to Buffalo Trace and do a distillery tour, they got the little clock or the counter showing how many barrels that they've barreled within the last year or two or whatever, and the number's astronomical. It's bananas how much they've been producing, and they added that new steel and everything else. So there's got to be a point where the market corrects just because of the inventory is going to be available, and things like Eagle Rare, Blanton's, E.H. Taylor, not talking about the 12-year or the single barrels and things like that, but all the normal products. I think within the next year, those are just going to be every place again. Henry McKenna is you can get it anywhere now. For a while, it was $35, and then all of a sudden it was gone. But now it's $60 everywhere you go. I just have a feeling that they're going to start doing that, and I don't remember who posted the picture of the OGD 114 7-year single barrel. Now we had a kind of a gut feeling that product, regular OGD 114 at $22 at Costco was not sustainable for them, because they're not going to make the money that they could probably make on it. So they were going to come out with a new label, and that's exactly what ended up happening.
Yeah, and then they've really had multiple labels really with the OGD. I mean, they just did, what was it, the 20-year release or the 18-year? That was a couple of like 18 months ago, Brian.
Nope, 16-year.
16-year. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot already. It's been so long since I've tried one or had one. I couldn't remember if it was 16, 18, 20, or whatever the year was. So you might be right, Toby, with that aspect of it. I keep going back to, this might be just a healthy correction in the market and where it's sitting. And I think the only people it's really going to hurt are people that are sitting on mass quantities of stuff that they were hoarding and not really, doing anything with.
I mean, if you have cases of Blanton's and regular Eagle Rare in your possession, and you're still waiting for the market to come back and try to sell that stuff, you're gonna be hosed and be sitting on a lot of extra product.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, for during our holidays or like our peak seasons, when people are coming in from out of town, if they're seeing Buffalo Trace, Sazerac Rye, or Baby Saz as it's called,
Right.
and Eagle Rare on the shelves, like they're buying them. Like they are
Right.
buying them, they are taking them home, and if they can buy them by the case, they are happy. Like there's a local store to me. Like Scott and I, like we know the individuals. They have, the 750 of Weller Special Reserve, that's the green label. It's
Right.
$50 every single day, and they have cases and cases and cases and cases.
Right.
And people will, in retail's $30. People will go there and spend $50 just because it's a Weller product.
Right.
And so
it's funny. That's a good bottle. I still just can't get to $50 on that bottle. I just can't. Like, I mean, and maybe it's because I know that every other Weller product is better than that, and you're not paying that much more for it. But yeah, that's just one that's been a hard pill for me to swallow, is at that $50 price point. I'd much rather buy a handle at 90, because at least then you're getting 2.5 times the amount of alcohol.
What's funny about that is people that buy that for $50, they're not doing the math to see that they get more money for the same, for the 90, for the handle, the 175 for $90.
Yeah.
They're just buying, in my opinion, they're just buying it because of what it is.
Yeah.
Like there's a gentleman at my office that whenever he sees it for $40 or less, he's going to buy it every single time. And like, it's interesting how they built the market. and that the people that refer to it as Wellers, not Weller, Wellers.
Them Wellers.
Yep, they are the ones that eat it up, and they always go by green, red, and black. Then there's orange. They typically go by the colors, which is something. But I don't know, to me, going back starting during COVID, the companies that marketed the best are the ones that are gonna stay relevant. Like, I feel bad for the NDPs that have these 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old whiskeys on the shelves for $18 a year, when all the big boys, when they're coming out with exact OGD for 114 at 7 years old, $60 or $55.
Yeah.
In my mind, in exactly what Toby had said, it's a $23 bottle. That's 4 or 5 years old, just at $23.
Right.
Is it worth it to spend what 2.2 times the amount to get a 7-year? I'm going to buy it. It's cool.
You say that, but then Heaven Hill, they just, when they rebranded that, bottle, right? What's the 7-year running now? $60?
Like $45, $50.
Yes. I mean,
it's come down.
But my point is, like, for a while, that shit was allocated. You couldn't find it. People were paying $70, $75 a piece for them. So, craft distillers are going to struggle, right? They're going to have some issues,
So I think craft distillers that don't have a brand,
right?
They don't have a following, like Smooth Ambler.
Yeah.
Like they built a brand, they built a following.
Yeah.
There's a lot of individuals that still follow them. Like the NDPs that don't have that following, that are selling at a premium, they're the ones that I feel that are going to have a hard time. You just getting by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the ones that have other products like Starlight that obviously has other things that they can lean on.
Starlight has such a following, and I'll say it. Like I ran away for the first 3 or 4 years that they were around, because there was so much. Again, being where we all live, there was so much local hype to them that I don't want to buy into it. Like, I don't like marketing. I don't like my great dad's grandpappy and this and that. But when I've had their whiskey, I'm like, oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Like their most recent Honey Reserve.
Yeah.
It's $50. It's 5 and 6-year-old whiskey. It's good.
Right. Yeah. But
Jared agrees.
Yeah, it is good. Jared, I'm gonna unmute you here in 2 seconds. I just didn't want you to come in hot while we were talking. But yeah, I definitely see that as being, the craft distilleries that have a cult following. I think they'll be fine, right? It's the other NDPs that are, either launching or doing other things. I mean, I think single barrels and other thing like that, unless you're in bigger groups and you have access, like, it's gonna be harder to move barrels than what it ever has been before. So.
Yep. Something that I wonder, if these NDPs can go out there and buy that 8-year-old Kentucky juice for $1,200,
right?
Turn around and bottle it right away and sell it for $55, $60 and still have a profit, and also create a following. I wonder if they're doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I just know with what people are paying for barrels, can they get to that price? They probably could get to that price. The problem is your margins are so tiny with that 3-tier system. I mean, they're just so tiny. I mean, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I've seen out in the market where you can buy, 10-year-old juice for $2,200, $2,300 for a barrel. I find it really hard to believe, with a 10-year-old barrel, you're going to get 120 bottles, right? Approximately. You're going to have a hard time making any profit on a 10-year-old barrel at that point at 60 or $70. Like, you might make $3, $4 a bottle max because of the 3-tier system. So I think that's the big thing.
I also wonder if now is the time, I guess, we're just going to try and, where the NDPs that have big bucks invested in the barrels, if they're just going to try and tread water and just stay live, just stay liquid. You buy some of the older juice that's on the market, hold it for 3, 4 years if they can, and then release it as a limited edition, 11-year-old whiskey.
Right.
So
yeah. So
interesting times. Gosh,
it is definitely interesting times.
Mm-hmm. All right. If I had a boat, so originally it would have been called social distancing, but now it would have been called like #interesting times.
Yeah, for sure. Well, gentlemen, I think that's long enough for this episode. I appreciate your input. And we can stay on and talk after this. I'm just going to cue us out, but I think overall this is definitely a correction in the market. It will impact the NDPs and the small craft distilleries probably more than anybody else. And I think that's pretty much the most consistent thing that you can get out of it. So, any other feedback on that?
Cannot wait to see what happens over the next 6 months. You going into the summer months when bourbonism is at its high and all of our legacy distilleries are slammed. I'm curious what's going to happen come fall, like for these NDPs, for these smaller companies.
Jared, do you have a 2 cents worth on this, like on NDPs and the fact that the craft distillery, or not the craft distilleries, the contract distilleries are being kind of shutting down big chunks of their business and things like that with MGP and Jim Beam and Green River and Luxco, all that. Do you have any insight on that piece?
It just sucks. I mean, a lot of these like Green River stuff, I felt like Green River was really starting to make a big come up in the mainstream game, and now it's kind of falling down, falling flat on its face, which really sucks. But I mean, it's kind of all just simple economics. What goes up must come down.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But and you missed this because you signed in late. But yeah, I think the biggest part is that they were anticipating the boom to last a lot longer than it did, and now it's been overproduced, right? So there has to be a correction, and how does that correction work? And I think this is a healthy way to do it. Shut down a few distilleries for 12 months. I've even heard rumors that Bardstown may be shutting down for the next 8 to 12 months.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's true. I'm just saying these are rumors that I'm hearing. So with that being said, it definitely would put a hole in the market for the next 12 months as far as what inventory is getting made. But there are still other places out there, right? You've still got Great Midwest. You've still got what's the place down there? Who's the guy we met? Man, I know the owner too, Van and them down in Hickman, Jackson Purchase. So I mean, there's other places out there that are doing contract distilling. But I mean, somebody said the other day, I thought they said that Log still hasn't turned on their still in like 4 months or 5 months. That's crazy. Like that, that's an insane number. If that's true, I don't know if it's true. These are just rumors that I've heard that Log still hasn't turned it on in forever. So I don't know. Somebody's got their TV up loud.
I wonder who that is. Jared.
We know it's Jared.
You get
the kid.
You get to that vein between you from the Widow Peak down.
Fair enough.
It happens.
Well, I'm going to sign us out of the Bourbon Barrel Talk episode, and we can stay on here and chat if y'all want to. So I think that's our episode of Bourbon Barrel Talk. If you want to find us, you can find us on Facebook, the Instagram, or the X. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way you get those episodes as soon as they hit early on Sunday morning. This is Scott, Jared, Brian, and Toby signing off. Peace out.
To infinity.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. My kids love when I say that. Like our whole thing is that I say into infinity, they say and beyond.
That's funny.
It's their way of saying that. So I don't have a tattoo. That may be a tattoo that I get, and I'll get it in their handwriting.
That'd be a great tattoo, though.
All right, so
that would be cool.
As you can see behind me, hey, I have an addictive personality.
Give me a second. I gotta set
that.
My sound here.
I'm afraid to go into the realm of tattoos.
Y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Because bottles and pens and shoes and hats.
That's weird.
When I get in, like I go in, well, for lack of a more descriptive word, balls deep. Yeah. So again, a lot of people, Jared, you weren't here for this. This is the most recent 18 year.
Yeah.
Let's see what you got going on. I love opening bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It's funny you're talking on that thing like it's a mic.
That's weird.
Even though the mic isn't there.
I've unplugged everything. That's what's weird.
That is kind of weird. I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah. Oh, hey, tell me you work at a credit union without telling me you work at a credit union.
Every time I play around, something else happens. Shame on Scott Minton.
You done broke it. You done broke it.
Mama said life's like a box of chocolates.
Are you there? Nope.
Yeah.
We are there.
Nope.
Oh, hey, so Scott, whatever you just moved made noises. Yeah, can't hear that either.
Let's see. stop. Edit mic settings.
Boom, 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 boom.
The hell? Now I can't hear you.
Boom, 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 boom.
All right, let's see. Is that better? Can you hear me okay? You can still hear me, but I cannot hear you guys. Let's try this now. Can you still hear me, but I can't hear you?
Yep.
How about now?
Scott, you need a tech person.
Let's see. All right,
Thank God he
let me
remembers
see
first
if I
names.
can
Hey, Jared, we can talk all sorts of shit about him now.
fix this here.
Looks like Santa
Audio,
Claus.
speakers, default,
Oh, there we go.
microphone.
That was weird.
Oh. Is that noise in my background?
Are you there now?
I can hear you.
Hello?
Bueller?
Hello.
I cannot
Hello
hear
and
you
welcome
guys.
to
This is
Movie
so stupid.
Phone.
All right, let me
Press
end the
1 for the most
stream.
recent released movies. Press 2 for a recording.